take the default item. If you have a Purify skill, take a Flash or Frost grade. Counter skill is also essential. Team 1 is Sadness and Despair. Team 2 is randomly moved to the room of Anger and Erosion. 2 people enter each room. Check the map to see which room you are in. There are dog monster and stone statues in all 4 rooms. While avoiding patterns, dog monster with a protective layer must be disposed of in each room before moving on. Let me first explain the sadness and despair that Team 1 goes to. On a night of sadness, part break destroys the protective film. Orb comes out from the stone statue in the middle, and if you eat this orb, you can't eat it because it damages everyone. Orb dribbles until one disappears. There is 25 nested stacks under the HP bar in Boss Monster. When you kill a little monster, the overlap goes down, destroying the protective layer. Stagger meter appears periodically in the statue. Everyone is terrified when the stagger fails. You must succeed. Team 2 is Knight of Thin Erosion and Anger. Stagger on dog monster destroys the protective layer. The statue gives everyone a dark debuff and creates up to 5 layers. When the statue has purple smoke, if you use the abnormal condition skill or grenade to hang the abnormal condition, you won't get a dark debuff. You can erase the dark debuff with Panacea or Sacred Charm, but it is not recommended to stack as much as possible. When you hit dog monster with a multi-hit, the protective layer is destroyed. The statue gives everyone a debuff to increase the damage that happens. Up to 7 overlays, but when 7 overlays, it's all die. If stagger meter appears under the stone HP bar, then stagger will remove all the debuffs. It's good to do a stagger when it's stacked about 3 times. I'll tell you the pattern that comes out in all 4 rooms. Stepping on the floor. Every 20 seconds, red, blue, and yellow pads appear in random positions on the floor. If you're on a red and blue pad, damage comes in, and if you're on a pad with nothing, damage and buff don't come in. Stepping on the yellow pad creates a buff called Breath of Light, increasing damage to attack and reducing damage. The blue pad appears as a 3x3 square, with a yellow pad in the middle. The red pad appears on each square. If stepping on the yellow pad is difficult, just step on the pad with nothing damage coming in. If you kill dog monster in all 4 rooms, the wall collapses, and you meet them all. Team 1 takes on a hammer, and Team 2 takes on boss monster with a bow. All of these boss monsters need to do part break. Part break will create buffs that increase damage. Bugs are applied one by one, and when combined, they are applied twice. Align Therain skill with the 2 boss monsters in a straight line. At this point, it is recommended that you attack or move up as close to the boss as possible to avoid moving the boss monster from moving. Make 2 boss monster HP similar, and kill them at the same time. If you can't kill it at the same time, the HP to line will recover, and revive again. If you only do part break well with the Therain skill, and kill 2 boss monsters similarly, the big wall collapses, and the boss monster joins. If you look at the mini-map, there are yellow circles on the top and bottom. A pad is formed in the place where the yellow circle is formed, and you have to step on the shining pad to create a buff called Protection of Light and become invincible. The important point is to go up to 1 man 1 pad. Also, you have to step on the pad first to get another new pad. You have to step on the pad one by one so that all 8 of you can step on the pad. The first pad is formed by fixing the top and bottom. And then there's pad on the right, on the left. It happens again on the top and bottom, and it has pad on the right and left. Go to your number X3 position, as you initially set the positon. Team 1 moves to HP 86, or so in advance. Step on the pad first. After that, the rest of the members step on the pad. And Team 2 will step on pad in order. If you can't get into pad or step too slowly, and don't get buffed, you die right away. When the pad pattern is over, come out and avoid the pad attack. There's a lot of pad. So if you keep getting hit, you'll die. Jump to the center when you reach boss monster HP 45. Then you have a little monster in 4 directions. Boss monster attacks counter from the center. If you don't take care of the middle monster on the outside quickly, little monster will continue to appear and hurt. It also interferes with the central boss monster counter, which is the most important thing, so you have to kill middle monster. Boss monster in the center must succeed counter 6. Member who hit the counter will be silenced, unable to use his skill, and will be attacked 3 times. If the counter fails once, it receives a large amount of damage. If you fail twice, all die. The first counter is boss monster looking in the 5 o'clock direction. The first direction you look at is fixed. If you hit the counter after seeing the blue motion, it often fails. Hitting the counter when the hammer is lifted above the head has a high success rate. In the 6 counter pattern, there are 2 types of sidereal skill used. Use the Bar Hunter in case the first counter fails. Bar Hunter prevents 2 more counter failures, except for 1 default failure. Member's mistake can prevent the all die situation right away. If you fail once, you get a big damage, but move on. The counter fails to block after for failures. This method determines for people who kill little monster. The rest of the counter cooltime is either long or slow, and for people, including supporters, counter boss monster in the middle. After that, the person who came after handling the little monster can counter the boss monster. Second method. Use a Xena to quickly process the little monster at once. You can only focus on the counter without worrying about the little monster. Unless the damage is very weak members, or if the little monster is hard to catch. This method is not recommended. Because HP 45 has a pattern, you can catch it enough, and even if you focus only on the counter, you can hit the counter 100%. I recommend a safe Bat Hunter. The first method. Team 1 is located on the left side, and Team 2 is located on the right side, relative to boss monster. Hit the counters in order. The disadvantage is that the direction of the top and bottom comes out, or the character with slow counter motion may find it difficult to hit by looking at the direction of the head. It's a way to set the order from 1 to 8, follow the head, and hit the counter. The downside is that, as with the first method, it is often difficult to hit if the counter motion is long or the movement is slow. Both Team 1 and Team 2 are seated in the X direction. If Team 1 hits the counter first, Team 2 hits the counter as a backup. The downside is that if the counter comes out in the middle of the seat, you can postpone it or try to hit the counter with each other, and fail. Position Team 1 and Team 2 overlapping each other. All directions can be covered. The disadvantage is that if the counter appears in the same position multiple times, it may fail to yield to each other. We recommend this method with the least amount of movement in your seat. Next, I will introduce a pattern that hurts a lot when it is hit among small patterns. The shiny hat on the floor hurts a lot when it hits the pad. There is a pad that moves in the direction of the line with a long light. If you get hit, it hurts and floats in the air, so you run away to the move skill. The pad appears into spaces. You can see the safe location and avoid it. The pad appears zigzag from the end. Just look at the zigzag shape and move to a safe position. There's a pad around boss monster that spreads out in a cross shape. You can look at pad and avoid it. An X-shaped red pad appears around boss monster. There's a pad that spreads out. You can look at pad and avoid it. The following is the counter pattern and the little pattern of boss monster. Hammer poses to rush at target. Hammer is in the head direction, so you can hit the counter from hammer's side. Boss monster slams hammer to the left 3 times. If you get hit, you get stiff. Hammer hits the axe spear held by hammer on the floor, then swings the spear. Both bosses swirl and wield their weapons. After that, hammer developed a rigid pad that spreads small in a fan shape. The bow flies an arrow forward. After taking the front with hammer, lightning strikes a small circular pad at the end of the square. Jump to target and take a picture of hammer. There's a big explosion where hammer took it. Shoot the front with hammer and rotate the weapon once. It's safe to be very close to boss monster. Then, the bowing boss monster shoots an arrow, creating a purple pad underneath. I avoid purple pad because it hurts. After a brief swing by the bowed boss monster, the hammer hits the axe window forward on the floor, and shoots a laser in 7 directions. Then jump back, and throw the axe spear at the target. The red pad that threw the spear really hurts. Avoid it, and the pad explodes and you get a red orbs, and you avoid this orb. Hammer and the bow attack by shooting clockwise. After that, when you swing hammer, you fall down when you get hit. When rotating clockwise, it is safe if it is already in the pass position. Boss monster with a bow shoots an arrow in a fan-shaped shape of a fan. Boss monster with a bow shoots an arrow at the portal. The line will then appear on the small portal. When an arrow flies from the line, it becomes rigid. A bowed boss monster shoots an arrow into the sky, and then a whirlwind pad explodes. Then for large circular pad explosions,